And the battle now will be in the counties across the 47 devolved units for the BBI, which now moves to the 47 county assemblies, and their importance is politically felt. Good morning, welcome to New Day Kenya, day 27 of January 2021. I am Ayub Abdikadir Abdi.
And I am Aziza Hashim. And as we all know, Chapter 6 of the Constitution dictates that there are two ways to amend a constitution, either by parliamentary initiative or by popular initiative. And we all know the recent and the one that has caused a lot of debates, the Building Bridges Initiative, the recent proposal to an amendment of the Constitution. And to basically tell you of the progress of this current amendment is that signatures have been approved. They have met the 1 million threshold, and 1.14 million signatures have been approved by the IEBC, of course, Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And the stage is set for lobbying after IEBC has finally given the Building Bridges Initiative a green light. Go ahead to the counties, proceed and rally support. And I don't think in history we've had members of county assembly being given so much power. These people have so much power right now because it's up to them to either make or break the Building Bridges Initiative. Will it pass or will it face a sudden death like Ekuru Okot's Punguza Mizigo Bill? Yeah. So whatever decision they make will determine the course of politics in the country in the future for good. And if it passes, of course, the bill will, of course, be passed over to the next stage, which is to the presidential assent. And before then, the president will pass it over to IEBC to run a referendum within a span of 90 days. And the bill will, of course, be approved in a referendum if at least 20% of registered voters in half the number of counties, that is 24 counties, vote for it. So it's political heat on a whole other level. And of course, the importance that the members of the county assembly will play, as captured on the front page of the Daily Nation here. Never before in the country's history have the members of the county assembly wielded so much power. They have 3 months now to decide the fate of the BBI draft. And whichever way they vote will change the course of the country's political path for the good. Story highlighted on page 4 and page 5 of the publication. And my colleague will be here with the stories our team managed to put up together, including, of course, the development as regards the political build-up and the gearing up towards the political process. In the year 2021, the ODM leader yesterday met university leaders in Nairobi at the Serena Hotel, and also the other stories that regard insecurity across the counties of Samburu and in Turkana, and she will be here to give you an upbeat assessment in effect to that. Nonetheless, though, I move to the big screen, and this is what's coming up on the front page of the Daily Nation. The battle for the BBI we just touched with my colleague now moves to the counties. The new sense of the importance this will have. And never before in the country's history have the members of the county assembly wielded so much power. They have now 3 months to decide the fate of the Building Bridges Initiative, which is a draft, and whichever way they vote will change the course of the country's politics for good. A story highlighted on page 4 and 5. Now, step number 1 will be the county assemblies who have now 90 days to consider and approve or reject the draft bill, then submit it to the National Assembly. If Parliament passes the bill, it shall be submitted to the President for assent. Before the assent, the President shall request the IEBC to conduct a national referendum within 90 days. The bill shall be approved, that is point 4, in a referendum at least 20% of the registered voters in half of the counties that are set to vote for it. The IEBC chairman will then deliver a certificate to the President for assent to the bill within 30 days and cause it to be published. And that is the process, more or less, of the Building Bridges Initiative. Now, on the right end, the President is putting the cash where his debt is. This is in regard to the 2021-2022 financial year budget, which estimates that about 3 trillion Kenya shillings will be needed to run the country in the next financial year. On the next page of the Daily Nation, it is Isaac Ruto on Ruto, but says still the deal with President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party stands. The Chama Cha Mashinani party leader Isaac Ruto has been a critic of the DP William Ruto for years, but they met up at a highly publicized event in the county of Bomet this month. In an interview in the paper, the former Bomet governor reveals why they reconciled. His relationship with the president's Jubilee Party recently cluttered post-election
alliance and the Chama cha Mashinani and the unfolding political scenarios. Story highlighted. You can read on page 10 of the publication. Coming to the BBI, and the IEBC clears the way. Now the county assemblies will have the responsibility, and it is the next battlefront as the IEBC chairman clears the signatures after they were verified. 1,450 members of the county assemblies will be at the heart, at the pivotal point, the fulcrum of driving this process to the next stage, which will be the National Assembly. And of course, the importance they will play will make the country's political trajectory either in the positive or on the negative end. And later we'll analyze the consequences that are likely to come out of the debates that they will have in the next 90 days. The ODM party leader continues to attack corrupt Jubilee government. He accuses the Deputy President William Ruto of coming up with fresh pledges without fulfilling what he had earlier promised as the Deputy President during the 2017 campaigns. However, political observers now see this as an affront on President Uhuru Kenyatta's party and saying that you cannot separate the Siamese twin in the name of the Uhuru Ruto who came to power in 2013. He yesterday met student leaders from across universities at the Nairobi Serena Hotel and was accompanied by the minority leader and senior counsel James Orengo, Esther Passaris, Mishimboko, Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir, and businesswoman Agnes Kagure. And coming to the next page of the publication, it is Ukur Yatani's dilemma of funding the country's running for the financial year 2021-2022. Whilst he seems to be filling up his bucket with the fish that he is fishing with the rod from the water body, the debt continues to eat that up, which means the dilemma that he faces as regards sealing the country's debt and how this is likely to affect the management of the country's coffers going forward into the year 2022, and how this is going to affect the operations of the government in regards to the specific budgeting it has done for key government operations and key government organs in the country, the executive, the judiciary, and parliament, and how this is likely going to be making Kenyans feel the pinch of an economy that has largely, according to analysts, been mismanaged since 2013, and President Uhuru Kenyatta's management of the country, and Ukur Yatani, of course, who now is the Treasury Cabinet Secretary. The front page of the People Daily, counties that will make or break the BBI push. 1,140,845 registered voters support the BBI, and that the report now, the draft will be with the county assemblies across the 47 units. The county assemblies, at least 27 county assemblies, must approve the bill for it to proceed to a referendum. Oparanya, Ndegwa, and Chebukati pictured on the front page of the People Daily. It's all about the game of numbers. The BBI team plans to bag at least 26 county assemblies to push the proposals to a referendum. And in conformity with Article 257, subsection 6, you are required to submit the decisions of your assembly to the speakers within 3 months, the speakers of the Senate and the National Assembly, or if you may like, the bicameral parliament. That is Wafula Chebukati yesterday in a letter addressed to the county assemblies across the 47 units. Now, Secretariat is said to have mapped out the country into 3 zones to source support for the BBI, and this is part of the process to win support for the document that the President and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga are championing as the point with which the country will depart the skirmishes that are normally witnessed after every electoral cycle. More taxes to plug 200 billion Kenya shillings budget hole, and Kenyans will brace for tougher times as the KRA targets 1.7 trillion in revenue collection, up from 1.5 trillion to finance 3 trillion financial plan. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, Kenya in clear spat with Somalia, and it's calling for diplomatic solution to the standoff between the 2 governments of Mogadishu and Nairobi, following the standoff between forces loyal to regional government leader Ahmed Madobe and President Farmajo of the federal government in Belet Hao, which is a border town with Kenya's Mandera County. Now, family murder suspect not fit to stand trial, according to a report tabled before Kiambu Law Courts yesterday, which shows Warunge was not mentally stable to plead to murder charges. He killed his mother, father, and 2 other members of his family, and later led detectives to the place where he had hidden the sort of gruesome murder he had committed and the instrument he used at the time, and the court will decide on the next way forward. And coming to the cartoon edition of the People Daily, and Stano has this for us. I will not rest until I save Wanjiku's cow, says the government, but corruption is suckling the cow that appears to be depleted in terms of its outlook, and you can see how it's suffering. No grass to eat. The only hope lies with what looks like the grass, but it is its tail. And then corruption continues to pull apart the government, unable to collect the needed revenue. And the car the government is aboard, according to Stano's cartoon, is jalopy, weather-beaten, and unlikely to make any motion in the event, which it will mean the government needs to operate and operationalize some of its activities. And of course, this is in line with how corruption continues to eat public funds and how the government appears to be watching with bated breath, perhaps an interpretation of the admission made by the president that 2 billion Kenya shillings is lost from the county and the national government coffers a day. And finishing up with this before I throw it back to my colleague, it's on CNN Politics. Most Republicans now get in line behind Donald Trump. The Senate tabled an effort by Senator Rand Paul to force a vote on the constitutionality of Trump impeachment trial, but the vote offered clues to head of the trial. President Biden sets bold timeline for return to normal life, and why you should update your iPhone right now. How important is it for security purposes? And there are questions as regards whether China, according to analysis by the CNN, a country accused of genocide, can host the Olympics, and it's important that this is likely going to, of course, lead to another standoff between the Chinese and the American authorities. For now, though, I get back to my colleague, Aziz is standing by on the other end of the studio to bring us up to speed with the latest stories our team managed to put up together with regards to developments of the week starting yesterday. And here we go.
Okay, well, yet again, thank you very much for putting everything into perspective with that very insightful newspaper review. But right about now, let's take a look at today's news recap. Starting with the state of affairs in Kapedo, a humanitarian crisis looms in Kapedo, Turkana County, following the unrest being witnessed in the area in the past few weeks. A network of civil societies are calling upon the government to address the serious crisis being experienced in the area, since there are no doctors and access to food to the residents.
I'm issuing a Gazette notice shortly extending curfew hours in Kapedo, and I'm going to designate it as a special operation area, and we'll maintain a curfew there between 6 and 6.
Barely a day after the government imposed a dusk to dawn curfew in Kapedo area in Turkana County, following the increasing cases of insecurity and rising tension due to the banditry attacks that have so far seen at least 10 people dead and left scores injured. A network of civil societies in the North Rift has urged the government to bring on board all the stakeholders, including human rights organizations, in the ongoing operations in Kapedo and other parts of the region affected by cattle rustling and banditry attacks in bid to restore peace in the region. Speaking in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, the group led by Kimutai Kirui raised concerns about the torture of innocent residents, demanding for the involvement of the Independent Oversight Authority, IPOA, to ensure the operation is carried out in a humane manner.
We are privy to the issue that the government or the police have not allowed any other NGO, any other non-governmental organization to accompany the police in this operation. We are seeing another situation that we saw with the Sabaot, where people were really massacred, women were massacred, children were massacred. So we are appealing to the government. We are appealing to the government and the entire operational team that is doing the operation in Kapedo, that we know cattle rustling is an activity that is run by politicians.
They are now calling upon the government to address the serious humanitarian crisis being experienced in the area, since there are no doctors and access to food to the residents.
Tunauliza wanasiasa waweke siasa chini ili maendeleo ipate kuendelea. Tunaona kwamba joto ya siasa imeenda juu, na sisi watu wa Rift Valley tunajua mwaka wa 2007 tulikuwa na shida. Tungeomba serikali kiongozwa na President Kenyatta kwamba tuweke siasa chini, na makanisa pia na civil society watusaidie.
They also condemned the killing of citizens and government officers and urged both county and national governments to find a lasting solution to the cattle rustling situation, urging political leaders to shun from insightful statements that could jeopardize peace across the country.
Kwa umbali tunaelewa ya kwamba kuna msukumo wa kisiasa, lakini ningependa kusema ya kwamba siasa zitakuja na zitaenda. Kwa hivyo tunauliza kwa lolote lile litakalofanywa kuwe na hali ya kuchunga kukiuka haki za kibinadamu mahali pale.
This is the second time in 3 years for the area to be declared a disturbed zone. The government had gazetted several places in the region as dangerous zones as part of efforts to manage the crisis of cattle rustling and deaths. The decision in 2017 to gazette the areas as disturbed was arrived after a series of consultations with the National Security Council. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
All right. Elsewhere, fire has razed down a temporary school dormitory at Kisumu Boys High School that was set to decongest the school in adherence with the COVID-19 protocols. No casualty was reported, with the police now treating the fire as arson. Meanwhile, at King David Kamama Boys in Embu North Sub-County, a dormitory was also razed down, forcing at least 800 learners to be sent home.
The growing trend of school fires and unrest has seen at least more than 10 schools shut down, forcing learners to cut off their studies. The latter school joined in the fray of the Warren School fires, being Kisumu Boys in Kisumu County, after a temporary dormitory made of iron sheets was brought down by fire. The dormitory that hosted at least 60 learners was put up as an extra measure to decongest the school as part of the COVID-19 protocols issued by the Ministry of Education. According to OCPD Peter Katama, there were no casualties, although nothing was salvaged from the fire.
Preliminary investigation reveals that no life was lost, but nothing was salvaged. The entire luggage of students was burned.
Katama, however, noted that investigations have since commenced and they were already treating the fire as arson.
We are treating this one as arson and investigations are on. We will, of course, use all the agencies, Kisumu Fire Department, Kenya Power, and the CID to get us to the bottom of this.
Elsewhere, over 800 students of King David Kamama Boys in Embu North Sub-County were forced to cut short their learning after a fire burnt down a dormitory. According to the Sub-County Acting Deputy Commissioner Frederick Kimani, the fire incident started at around 11 p.m. and so far the preliminary report indicated that the fire was set by rowdy students who wanted to go home.
Na mwalimu anatuarifu kwamba walianza vurugu siku ya Jumapili, lakini hawakuonyesha dalili yoyote siku yote jana. Lakini muda ya kulala ilikuwa saa 4, ndivyo walianza vurugu hii na bweni likaweza kuchomeka.
Meanwhile, the commissioner has given the Board of Management 14 days to come up with a modality of how the learners will report back to class.
Hii ni ujangili ya watoto kama wawili ama watatu ambao wamefanya kitu kama hii. They will be brought to books na watapelekwa kotini. Na tunataka kualifu wazazi kwamba ni msimamo ya serikali kwamba they will be able to shoulder. Hawa wenyewe watagharamia kujenga bweni lingine. Tuko na members wa board na tunataka wafanye two things. Kitu ya kwanza lazima tukue na short term measures. Na short term measures ambao board imechukua ni kutuma watoto shule. Nyumbani, ni kutuma watoto nyumbani.
Within a span of 1 week, Embu County has experienced cases of fires in at least 3 schools, including Kiambere Mixed Secondary School, where 10 students were arrested and one of the students is now being treated as a prime suspect and interrogated by the DCI. DCI boss George Kinoti said the suspect was arrested following an identification parade. Detectives discovered that he had prior knowledge to the incident after he was accused of having sent a pupil from a neighboring primary school to buy him a matchbox. Parents and a number of education stakeholders have stepped up to coax the Ministry of Education to solve the worrying trend that is likely to affect the national KCSE and KCPE exams. The Ministry of Education through CS Magoha has, however, remained adamant on shifting the blame on parents who, he alleged, failed their roles of taking care of their children.
The principal mentioned tough love here today. That is what our parents don't give. They don't give even 1% of tough love. What they give is what I would call stupid love. Because if for 9 months the child has gone home and you are treating him like an egg, and then you expect the principal to instill discipline. what do you think is going to happen?
Milia Kisienya for Ebru TV.
Well, away from that, Lawrence Simon Warunge, the main suspect in the murder of his 4 family members and a construction worker in Kiambaa, is not mentally fit to take plea. This follows the mental assessment that found him unfit to take plea on Monday. Take a look.
Warunge will not stand trial after a psychiatric report revealed that he is not mentally fit to be charged in court. The prosecution applied for 1 month for Warunge to be detained. In the meantime, further medical checkups will be done.
First suspect continue with that assessment today as scheduled. So mentioned tomorrow. Second suspect remanded.
Chief Magistrate Patricia Gichohi granted the application, allowing the prime suspect to be held in Nairobi until the matter is mentioned on March 1st, 2021. Furthermore, Sarah Mudhoni, the second suspect in the 4 murders, has been released under Section 87A and will now become a prosecution witness in the case. Warunge confessed to killing his father, Nicholas Njenga Warunge, mother Annie, brothers Maxwell and Christian, and their farmhand James Kinyanjui. He told detectives that his initial plan was to also eliminate his 2 sisters, but they reported back to school on January 5th. Detectives handling the case have reconstructed the scene of the murder and said it corroborates the confession. They have revisited the scene twice in the company of the suspects. The 2 suspects were last Monday produced in court in Kiambu, where the police made an application to hold them for 14 days to enable them to complete their investigations. Warunge claimed in his confession that he chose to eliminate the 4 family members of his nuclear family because they were talking ill of him behind his back. Police are puzzled at how he managed to kill the 5 without resistance. A post-mortem of the bodies showed that they had multiple injuries. The student was arrested in Kabete area after being on the run for 3 days. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
Well, the stage is now set for massive lobbying and heightened political temperatures after the IEBC gave the BBI bill a nod. The ball is now in the 47 county governments' court, which are supposed to debate and either approve or reject the bill by the 26th of April.
Kuna signature ingine ya nguvu ya former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga.
The country is headed for a major political battle after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission gave the Building Bridges Initiative process the green light to proceed. The announcement by the IEBC that the Constitution Amendment Bill received the endorsement of about 1.4 million Kenyans, likely to become the political dog whistle as both proponents and opponents of the referendum expected to put their best foot forward in a bid to score a political goal.
Munataka tubadilishe uchumi, vijana wapate kazi, ama tubadilishe katiba, viongozi wapate vyeo? Ni kazi ama ni vyeo? Ni kazi ama ni vyeo? Wale wanasema wanataka kazi, nione kwa mkono. Sawa sawa.
And the time, the 3 months that is provided under the Constitution for the assemblies to make a decision on whether they support or oppose have started running from today.
Proponents of the BBI will be keen to get the support of at least 24 counties so that the push for referendum does not suffer a similar fate to the Dr. Ekuru Aukot-led Punguza Mizigo initiative, whose journey was cut short at the county assemblies.
The contents of the document are going to determine whether it is supported or not. We know, for instance, that MCAs are big supporters of devolution and that they superintend over county resources that sometimes are very stretched. So that a proposal to increase the county allocations is something that is very welcome to them. And we have had feedback from across the country, from many MCAs. They were saying that they support the proposal in the BBI to increase the allocation of the counties from 15% to 35%.
Opponents of the push to amend the Constitution, on the other hand, led by allies of the Deputy President, will be using the referendum to gauge their popularity ahead of the bigger battle that is the race for president just about a year and a half from now. The move also poses serious legal questions, given the fact that a case filed by the human rights body Muhuri against the legality of the IEBC to hold the process is still active in court in Mombasa. Members of county assemblies, on their part, are expected to use the period to flex their political muscle and use the bill as leverage for all they have been demanding.
Away from that, the set by IGAD to investigate claims by Somalia that Kenya is meddling in its internal affairs and arming militia to destabilize the neighboring country says there is no evidence to confirm that. The team was established following a directive by the 38th IGAD summit held in Djibouti on December 20th, 2020, during which the regional heads of state and government meeting discussed the diplomatic crisis that has affected the relationship between Kenya and Somalia. Take a look.
The diplomatic spat between Kenya and Somalia that saw the Horn of Africa country break all diplomatic relations with Kenya found its way to the 38th IGAD summit held in Djibouti late last month. And after a month of probe, the verdict is in.
The recent tension between Somalia and Kenya, two neighboring countries, which led to the breakdown of diplomatic relations, remain a serious concern for the African Union.
The team has found that Kenya has not interfered with affairs of Somalia, as the Mohamed Farmajo-led country had claimed.
The federal government of Somalia has reached this decision following the series of political interference and violation of Somali sovereignty.
The investigation panel, made up of diplomats and military officers, and an IGAD representative was sent to Kenya and Somalia in January with a mission to collect facts and data justifying the respective positions of the two countries. And a report by the team says the Commission considers that inasmuch as there are serious grievances, some of which are long-standing, they do not appear to it to be sufficient to justify a diplomatic separation between Kenya and Somalia. During the discussions, the President of Somalia, Abdullahi Farmajo, made any assumption of diplomatic relations with Kenya conditional on the withdrawal of the armed forces that Kenya has gathered at the border and end of the armed militia hostile to his government that he maintains on its soil. But the report argued that Kenya has made great human sacrifices to free this region from the Al-Shabaab militia in order to protect itself from the many attacks that have been perpetrated on its soil. It added the consequences of the diplomatic standoff on the 3,000 Somali children attending Kenyan schools on the other side of the border, the hindrance to the functioning of AMISOM, which has since been experiencing difficulties in relief operations among Kenyan troops, and the economic impact of the embargo on khat in the agricultural region of Meru are a perfect illustration of this.
Well, moving on swiftly, the Presidential Delivery Unit is in the eye of the storm after it has been accused of frustrating efforts by the youth to deliver beds to county hospitals. Kiambu Women Rep Gathoni Wamushomba lit up the fire when she sensationally claimed that the unit was made up of arrogance, lies and non-committal promises. However, the unit has defended itself over the allegations, claiming that it could not deal with people who had integrity issues.
When the government ordered that ICU beds be procured from local manufacturers in a bid to curb the coronavirus pandemic, local manufacturers were up in the moon with the hope that their work had at last been recognized. In Kiambu County, a group of artisans could not hide their joy after it emerged that they had been given the green light to make 500 locally assembled beds. But as it would later emerge, the venture will end up in premium tiers, with the group stuck with beds, debts and non-payment from the procuring authority, the Presidential Delivery Unit. A move by the Kiambu woman representative Gathoni Mushomba to intervene ended up in what she termed as disappointment and frustration. Gathoni took to her Facebook page to claim that, and I quote, after grueling 5 hours of mediation and discussion over the botched COVID-19 500 beds promised by the Presidential Delivery Unit to the young men in Githunguri, they were left empty without any attached interest in the deal I honestly offered to mediate, but it turned out that the goose was already cooked a long time and aborted. She went ahead to further say that all the heads of the PDU offered was arrogance, lies and non-committal promises, including threatening one of the partners of arrest claiming he's a con man. Now I know why Uhuru Kenyatta is losing the political goodwill of the young people in Kiambu. Gathoni lamented that the group was now staring at being auctioned over the huge amount of debt and called upon the president to intervene. She went ahead and further said, and I quote, "Sadly, the young team is now glaring to be auctioned. Who will join me to bail them out of debts incurred in the hopes of the deal? In the meantime, if Ikia the president at State House, your presidential delivery unit is a scam. Ask me for details of what was said today in the presence of the area DCC. A total disregard of the young people." But the Presidential Delivery Unit has distanced itself from the claims, saying the project ran into headwinds after it emerged that there were wrangles and a criminal past amongst one of the entrepreneurs.
We are having a crisis as a country. Yes. This corona crisis is a burden of all the 50 million Kenyans. And he was very categorical that he knows and he believes that the solutions for this country shall come from the youth of this country. Sure. So he is very excited when he saw this, and yesterday he dispatched me and told me to come here and see what is happening, and he had given me certain instructions. I am here with the county commissioner of Kiambu. Yeah, he is here. So we will carry that one bed. We will take it to Kenya Bureau of Standards, but in the meantime we will immediately give you an order of 500 beds.
Mr. Andrew revealed that the government faced challenges processing the order to procure the beds after obtaining intelligence that Mungai Gathongo, 25 years of age, was facing at least 3 cases related to fraud and obtaining money by pretense, a claim that Gathoni disputes.
Fine, there's some information you're not supposed to know, but how many other conmen are still doing businesses in government? I mean, we still see them supplying. What is wrong with that? I mean, I'm saying it is wrong, yes, to be a conman, but you cannot come and tell us you stopped a contract because the young man is a conman.
In a statement, the PDU claimed a visit to the workshop where the innovators claim to have been making and storing beds showed little activities with only a single ready bed in sight. Speaking in Githunguri, Mr. Andrew revealed that wrangles around the ownership of the farm that had first claimed to have been behind the beds further informed the government to be reluctant in the process of the order. In interviews with the media and social media pages, Gathongo and his colleagues, Joseph Muhinja, have claimed to have incurred loans more than 3.5 million, ostensibly to import materials for the beds and in training and recruiting of labor.
All right, the Parliamentary Public Investment Committee has summoned the managers of Shop and Buy for failure to honor Parliament's invitation to shed light about the KEMSA procurement scandal. The company, which is said to have flouted tender procurement regulations, was awarded a tender to supply COVID-19 commodities, some of which were stolen on arrival at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And of course, the committee is chaired by Mvita, Member of Parliament.
Nano that's why I want to understand the faces behind Nano. What is it called? Nano Pay Limited. The faces behind them, to understand. Have you dealt with government before? Do you understand the procurement rules? Do you understand the procedures? Right? Because government cannot incur any expenditure without a budget. So if they were so ignorant, right, then they were part and parcel of breaking the law, and they could suffer the consequences.
All right. Good. We'll do that decision. Look at our schedules, Malin, and then agree on a time that we can be able to call them in again. Meanwhile, auditor, you'll just provide a proper written brief to the committee. And since we are at it, I'm seeing here that you're talking about an error by Shop and Buy. Rahab just raised this matter. What was the error regarding Shop and Buy?
I think I would have to consult on that one because I'm not aware of that one.
The sergeant takes instructions from the chair. Sergeant, just call out that we don't want anyone to get out of here saying that they were not called out.
Nobody was there.
Thank you very much. And it is with that in regard to that this committee is issuing summons to them to be able to appear.
Well, let's take it to Machakos County, where supremacy battle between Wiper Democratic Kenya Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and his counterpart of the United Democratic Alliance UDA, Johnston Muthama, has kicked off, with both political foes expected to show off their muscles in the much-anticipated Machakos senatorial by-election. Kalonzo and Muthama, who fell out over party nominations in the 2017 general polls, have dared each other about the control of the Kamba vote, where Deputy President William Ruto is determined to gain entry by use of his political allies. Our political affairs reporter Jeff Haimba with more details on that story.
Gloves are now off in the Machakos County senatorial race as major political foes face each other. After being cleared by the electoral body IEBC, Arbanas Ngengele Muthama of the UDA party, in a convoy controlled by the party chairperson Johnston Muthama, the duo hit the ground running, paralyzing most of the business activities in Machakos town and its environs.
Na Raila nataka ambiwe haya, tutamshinda kule Western Kenya. Viti vyote, huyu mtu nitamfuata mpaka mfunguni mwa kitanda tumshinde kila kitu.
Kalonzo amefanya kazi na Moi. Hii marafiki yangu wanataka kuwa governors, wanataka tu kumdanganya Kalonzo, anamwambia usishikane na Ruto, usishikane na watu wengine, wewe enda tu peke yako. Wao wakishakuwa governors, Kalonzo anabaki akilala kwa lami. Hatutaki Kalonzo alale kwa lami tena. Tunataka kuwe serikali na William Ruto.
Johnston Muthama, incumbent of several leaders allied to Deputy President William Ruto, traversed the corners of Machakos before proceeding to Mulumutisa Gardens and the Machakos bus station.
Mimi nilimuona jana ati wakati anaenda police station, pande hii ako na James Orengo, pande hii ingine ako na akina Mutula, na nikajiuliza wakati hivi makaribuni mtoto wenu hapa Ukambani Mike Mbuvi Sonko alikuwa ananyongwa, hamukuona Orengo akiwa ameshika kisu akinyonga Sonko? Leo tuwapashe habari, tuwaambie mahasla ni matajiri ambao wameibiwa na familia chache.
Seneta wa kwanza wa chama cha UDA Kenya mzima tunaomba akuwe kutoka Machakos.
Each exuding confidence that Ngengele will clinch the seat through the newly formed party of UDA. But as this went on, Wiper Democratic Party boss Kalonzo Musyoka took a charm offensive in the same garden of Mulumutisia. Kalonzo Musyoka is fronting Agnes Kavino Muthama, ex-wife to Johnston Muthama, say this is the only opportunity to show dust the Deputy President William Ruto through his new party of UDA.
I'm very grateful to His Excellency, our party leader, Stephen Musyoka Kalonzo, and to the IEBC people for clearing me. I'm ready to go. Yes. Let's meet at the ground. We battle, I'll bring it home.
Kalonzo Musyoka maintains he is the Ukambani kingpin, and that Muthama's efforts to divide the Kamba vote will not yield any fruit. The political contest between Muthama and Kalonzo Musyoka is just about to get messy, with each using all the avenues to pursue their cause.
I confirm that Agnes Kavindu Muthama submitted all the required documents, and because of that, she is duly nominated to vie for the Senate by-election. Yeah. I have the pleasure, therefore, to hand the nomination certificate to Agnes Kavindu Muthama.
Wow. The acrimonious followed between Kalonzo Musyoka and Muthama, a long-term confidence dates back to 2017 during the party primaries, where Itemachi Kalonzo Musyoka was using underhand deals to rig in his favored candidates. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haimba.
Well, that brings us to the end of the news recap on this Wednesday morning right here on New Day. And when we come back, my able co-host Ayub Abdikadir will be diving into the round table alongside his guests, political analyst Edgar Kosgei, Nuruddin Kagai, who's a governance expert, and Akivaga Jayuga. Let me tell you, this name is giving me a lot of jitters here and there. Akivaga Jayuga, who's a political analyst, where they'll be delving deeper into, of course, the next step as IEBC has now finally verified BBI signatures. What is the next step? Be sure to indulge with us, of course. Interact with us on our social media platforms, Ebru TV Kenya on Instagram and on Twitter, Ebru TV KE on Facebook, and via our short SMS line at 40920, via WhatsApp at 0777672230. But sit right and sit tight. We'll be right back after the break.
Good morning. Welcome to the broadcast. 0791478990 is the number. The hashtag on Twitter, New Day KE. The short SMS code is 40920. 45 minutes past the hour. Edgar Koskei, thank you for coming. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And Chamage.
Long time. Chamage is. Don't even try that. I'll just tell you, Amit.
Okay.
Amit
even the president spoke vernacular.
Yeah, he did.
And his message was well choreographed.
I don't know whether that is right or wrong.
Okay.
Just continue. Is a symbol of national unity. So.
Okay, happy to have you.
Yes.
And thank you for gracing us with your time.
Thank you so much.
At the center is Akivaga Jayuga, who is political commentator. And he joins us for the first time on the show. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Nordin Kagai is the boy of the hood. He is lawyer, political and social commentator. You're a gentleman. I appreciate your company here on the broadcast. And before we get going with the discussion here is what's coming up on the front page of the Daily Nation this Wednesday morning. The battle for BBI now moves to the counties. And the new sense of importance is never before in the country's history have members of the county assembly wielded so much power. They have 3 months now, about 90 days, to decide the fate of the Building Bridges Initiative draft. And whichever way they vote, change the course of Kenya's politics for good. A story highlighted on page 4 and page 5 of the publication. Coming to you first, Edgar Koskei.
Yes.
And good morning to you again. May I start with you kindly? We have seen the importance of the county assemblies ever since the devolved system of governance was first ushered in 2013 following the elections of March. And how important will they be? And to what length will their significance be felt in the changing of the political discourse in the country?
Thank you very much for having me. When I heard yesterday that the signatures have been approved, then I thought of the counties and how important the counties are. And then I thought of what happened in Nairobi County the other time where Mike Sonko was ousted under very unclear circumstances. It reminded me that counties can be compromised. It reminded me that there is someone who is scheming somewhere to have the counties on their side and then pass the BBI the way it is. It reminded me that even people can vote online. And even they can vote in your absentia. It reminded me the many loopholes that are here. One thing we are not, we are sure of is that Uhuru Kenyatta is in charge of the country, and he said he's in charge and he will do everything he can to talk to the speakers, to do what they can do to pass the BBI.
Okay, and as you mentioned that, we are talking about a mathematical figure of 1,450 elected members of the county assembly. Therefore, you mean that the president and the government have the capacity to manipulate and sway opinion in the way of the BBI? I mean, we are in a democracy, isn't it? So how effective will the government be in ensuring that they sway the opinion of members of the county assemblies?
Many people doubted last time when he was dealing with the Senate. They doubted the president that he was not going to deal with the Senate. But one thing came to my mind again, party loyalty. The party constitution can be used to intimidate members or to tell them, if you don't do this, then you can be out of this party any time from now. So the people at the helm, Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta, they have everything. And they can use everything for this thing to pass. Now, it is my opinion that BBI is not popular on the ground. I know he'll differ.
Okay.
It's my opinion. But what the president and the prime minister, former prime minister are carrying is serious power and state machinery. and everything they need to pass this thing. And, well, I think if they go in that direction, it's going to pass. My thinking.
Okay. Now, Akivaga, looking at the makeup of our political system, it's more or less based on ethno-majoritarian sort of a democracy. And we have seen how important it is to be a loyal member of a party. And we have seen that take effect with the changes that the party has effected, the Jubilee Party, in the ejection of Kipchumba Murkomen, Adan Duale, Susan Kihika Kimani, and the other leaders who occupied plum parliamentary positions. Do you think this is likely to shape the outcome of the needed 24 counties to approve the Building Bridges Initiative bill?
Thank you so much. First of all, contrary to his held beliefs, contrary to Kosgei's cherished belief that I back BBI, I would like to categorically put it on air.
Apologize.
Okay.
I apologize.
That I receive the BBI proposal and whatever it entails with shame, added to mockery, multiplied by contempt, and I raise it to the power of disgust. Right now, the country is in the midst of a pandemic, and two individuals insisting that the reforms to the constitution is what is important right now. To me, that's marks of a tone-deaf insensitivity that should not be tolerated among our political class. Now, coming to your question, of course, this is a country that people base their loyalty on their ethnic conclaves.
Or party lines.
On the, rather, the party lines, per se. And so, how can we predict whatever will be the outcome of the BBI, the draft bill in the county assemblies? We take a look back to the Punguza Mizigo and at the fate which it suffered, right? We had some counties like Migori County, where the speaker used to categorically put it that our party has given us instructions to shoot this bill down. It is dead on arrival, right? We have also situations like what happened in Embu County. I mean, the bill suffered on grounds of technicality, where the speaker asked an MCA to propose the bill. When he proposed the bill, there was no person to second it. So it suffered on grounds of technicality. So and these were instructions from above. So we cannot gainsay, or rather, we cannot assume the powers which the demigods hold over the county assemblies, and more specifically in the regions where they hail from.
Okay.
So we expect such kinds of game to play as we go on, and we expect, as I can say, I expect regions of that aligned to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay, I know he has a problem in his backyard, but I expect regions, a lot of problem, right? But I expect regions aligned to, let's say, Raila Amolo Odinga, because I've seen no problem in the region. So I expect them to take it hook, line, and sinker. But again, it's going to be a contest, so let's brace for it.
Okay, as we get deeper into that, and some of the entices that the content of the report does contain in terms of the World Development Fund and the other parts of the reports that are likely to entice members of the County Assembly. Now, Nurdin, to you then, looking at the perspective of what appears to be the Deputy President William Ruto's influence in some of the counties, and we have seen him of late, and the latest catalogue of members of the County Assembly, the relegation that last saw him were members of the County Assembly from the County of Mandera at his current residence here in Nairobi on Friday last week. Was he, or did he foresee such a situation where the members of the County Assemblies will play a pivotal role? And do you think to what extent he has gained ground in terms of the effect that he is likely to have in the swaying of the opinions to oppose the draft, the BBI draft, as it is presented to the counties?
By the time we were talking about a referendum, everyone is alive to the fact that if, for example, the DP has advisors, so they advise him according to Article 257 in the Constitution, it talks about the importance of the counties towards the referendum. So I'm sure he was aware that the County Assembly will actually come to play a very pivotal role. Now the challenge is that he might face is simply because in Kenya, political parties are owned by individuals. So are the elected members of either parliament, senate, governors, or even county assemblies. So what happens is your party leader controls your mind. That is why you see impeachments. If the party leader has okayed, the governor will go home. If he hasn't...
But that is not all the scenarios, isn't it?
Very important.
Except in ODM. But in ODM, there's a reason why he was not impeached. One, the ground, he has a ground.
We are talking about...
Migori.
That is Migori
Governor.
Zachary Okoth Obado.
Yes, he has the ground, but also he got to the intended office. The same way he went for that thing to go under the table. But that's a discussion for another day.
Okay.
So what we are saying in essence is that the leaders we elect in this country have no independent mind. That is because they're always panel beaten to think in a certain line. That's what they call the party lines. So for the DP, as we all know, and like they say, Jubilee is Uhuru's property. That's what they try to portray. And ODM is seen as Raila Amolo Odinga's party. So members of the county assembly that belong to these two divides, even though he might make inroads and get 2-3 people from each and every county, it might be an uphill task. Because the members of the county assembly, by now, they already know in these 3 months, this thing has to pass by hook or crook. They might even go there and sleep, but just wake up by acclamation and pass it. And then, you know, the speaker only has to take the draft bill and a certificate to show that they actually approved to the speakers of the parliament.
Okay.
And from there, they have no other duty. So they have been enticed with that ward fund, but I can tell you for free, it's neither here nor there. They don't have a say. It's sad, but they don't have a say in whether the referendum will happen or not. For them, like you heard Sifun yesterday say, the members of the county assembly, 30 days have started today. So go down there and make sure that that thing comes to parliament. So it's already predetermined that they will pass, a certificate of approval will be sent with the draft bill from the county assembly to the speakers of parliament.
Okay.
And from there, the parliament, as we know, now will actually pass it as well.
Okay. Now, Edgar, before you come in, it's important that the Wakili has mentioned the independence of the political players and the political parties. And that is what we envisioned when the country had struggled against the brutal Kanu regime to become a multi-party democracy. And 30 years later, we still are talking about a shrinking political space and the lacking capacity of members to make independent decisions. But Edgar, the point that is underscored here, and it's very important, and I wanted to bring it out, is then will it not open a battlefront of money exchanging hands here with the people you have mentioned as the proponents, perhaps in the event they meet a hurdle for them to sway an opinion, then what makes them not do as they have done with the National Assembly, where members of parliament were handed 10,000 Kenya shillings in toilets, then it can be far much lesser for members of the county assembly, even beyond that, isn't it?
Why should I even give out money when I have your file? Yeah. It's a question that every Kenyan should be asking. Now, Uhuru Kenyatta has specialized in getting people's wrongdoings and filing them for future reference. We have a story flying in our dailies saying Kangata, EACC goes to Kangata. Everyone in this country has gone through something, has had an error before. And that one will be used to coerce maybe the speakers to tell them that if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. This is going to happen to you. If money is not going to exchange, it's not going to change hands. Then they might use that. But money might be poured. Remember, in the Senate, they were saying 5 million has been credited somewhere, so they are sending the KRA to come and check your accounts whether you have. Money always changes hands when they have no other way to do their own things. I am sure that someone is sitting down and bringing on board the 24. Remember, we just need 24 only, and they are done. Now they are counting. Nyanza is over. Out. 4.
That's 4.
Siaya, Migori,
Kisumu,
Homa Bay. Intact.
Now, Kisumu is, no, Kisii is 50-50. According to my thinking.
Okay.
Migori.
Nyamira?
No, Nyamira, I mean, 50-50. Now, Mombasa, people are saying Mombasa will just sail through. But I'm thinking otherwise. Now, that one aside, maybe we'll look at that one later. The fund that you talked about, the 5%?
The Ward Development
Fund, is just a decoy. Otherwise, what we are passing in this referendum is the Prime Minister's post and the deputy and those 5 posts.
So in other words, that bit you're talking about of the 5% Ward Development Fund is a dangle carrot.
Even they would have passed it even before. Parliament is able to do that. But why would you put it inside that? It means that the lie in this document has to be protected using some truth. There's a lie in here. And those 5 posts are the lies. And now they have to use this one to protect this one. That 5% is a bunch of nonsense to put it in a place where we're going to line up to vote for it. A total nonsense. Give us the 5 posts that we have to pass, and then we will decide whether we're going to pass it or not. But these guys will just have to pass it.
Okay, but if the proponents of the Building Bridges initiative are to fault you, then they will critique you based on the World Development Fund to say perhaps that it is the lowest unit of governance model or administration in our country, therefore it's likely to benefit the people at the county level and with close proximity to the people now that they can legislate, oversight and make laws on behalf of the people of the county assembly. Does it not give you hope in any way that it's meant for development? Nonetheless.
I don't refuse, IEBC. Let them give us even 10%. But they don't have to put it in a referendum. This 5% is just protecting what is the real issue of the country. The real issue of Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta are these posts that you shouldn't touch.
Okay, which is the expanded executive you're talking about. Okay, we'll talk about the bloated government, and I'll put that vis-a-vis the country's projected estimates in terms of the budget for the 2021-2022 financial year. And Ukur Yatani appears to be now having a budget deficit or a hole of about 200 billion Kenya shillings to meet the 1.7 trillion from 1.5 trillion. That is the maximum expected target that the KRA will collect in the next financial year. And coming to you, looking at the choreography of the political development ever since March 2018 when the handshake happened between the president and the ODM party leader, here comes perhaps a new sort of a political hierarchy that the members of the county assembly will play and which will be key and will determine the next discourse for the country's political conversation going forward. Then do you expect a level of decorum, a level of, debate in understanding and in making sure that they in-depth the content of the BBI report before making certain decisions as to whether to reject or to approve the BBI draft?
Well, it is the hope that kills. And whereas I might be hoping that might be the case, the political machinations of the current political system tells us otherwise, that we are really not likely to see a sober debate happening in the county assemblies. The reason is simply because the political elites, the duo, Raila Amolo Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta, they are hell-bent on ensuring they shove this BBI in the throats of Kenyans. And so I don't expect any objectivity among the county assemblies. It will, I think, it will just reflect, as I said earlier, it is just going to reflect the sentiments that are in existence up in the apex of the political leadership in this country. So, well, Raila Amolo Odinga himself, he pitted the Msambweni by-elections as the canary in the coal mine to determine the chances of their BBI passing. And he got his answer. But this insistence on continuing to shove it tells you that in a country that there are 2 billion shillings that lost every day.
Admission made by the president.
Then this time round, maybe they intend to make the MCAs the major beneficiaries of the 2 billion shillings that is lost every day. But anyway, it's a matter of waiting and see. But I'm doubtful if we're going to have any objective discourse within the precincts of the county assembly.
The county, okay. And also, and I'll come to Akili later on the cases that are before the Supreme Court seeking advisory on whether the members of the county assemblies can make significant changes as to whether they can alter the content of the report. But Nurdin, to you on the political note here, does the Msambweni by-election outcome in the county of Kwale perhaps signify a changing mood in the country's political landscape as to what Kenyans now want, which is soaring food prices, high unemployment rate, the economic mismanagement of the country, and an economy that is plummeting through the floor because of the pandemic, and also what appears to be the president's admission of losing 2 billion Kenya shillings, perhaps then even bringing it on a bigger scale, that this is a leaky government that I am administering.
First and foremost, for the president to even admit that 2 billion shillings is lost daily shows the lack of leadership in this country. It shows that he has failed. With EACC, with the DCI, with DPP, you have failed, you know. So that means our institutions are weak. They need to be strengthened. How do you do that? You fund them better. You create independence in the institutions. Do not weaponize the war on corruption. That is the only way you will solve what you are going through. Now, to get back to Msambweni, in as much as the political class will never admit it, the Msambweni election has actually brought about a storm in Kenya. They will never admit it. And that is why, by hook or crook, Nairobi will never go for a by-election for a governor's seat. You see, the voter is enlightened. The voter is smarter than they think. Because now the voter is talking about things that are crucial. He's talking about the economy. The voter is talking about the fact that he or she was retrenched, or rather got fired because of the pandemic. Now, even if you look, for example, at the youth of today are not the same youth like those who were before, because right now they're enlightened. They look at you and tell you, what you're telling me is garbage, because I prefer this and that. Right now, someone is poor, someone is hungry, and then you tell them, when this document passes, you will have money in your pocket. That is a fallacy. When this document passes, the economy will grow. The problems facing Kenyans are not the institutions or the constitution. It is the political class. They have no goodwill for the people. You have no goodwill to actually mend the economy. So there is no way a document will make things better. So what we need to do is we need to have a paradigm shift. I keep saying this. We need to have a radical surgery of a political scene. So we stop electing clowns, because day in, day out, the people we elect have no vision, are not selfless, and are not even patriotic. They don't care about the country or the citizens. It's all about myself. And that is why the issues facing the country right now are never going to be solved. Because, for example, now they tell you BBI is a solution to what is ailing the nation. What happened to the Kriegler report, the Ndungu report, the Waki Commission? All these things have not even been addressed. The land question is not in the BBI. We have so many squatters in the 21st century not addressed. So you're not going to tell us that this document, it's so good. But, you know, my brother here said the only reason we're going for a referendum is because of those seats. You see, I'll give them credit, because Article 255 mentions the matters that can cause a referendum. National issues, Bill of Rights, objects, principles of the county assembly. It talks about a term limit. So what happened is they tried to look for things that would bring a referendum. So they look at objects, principles of county government, say 5% here. They go to functions of parliament, bring a prime minister here. So they will tell you have to go for a referendum. But in essence, the real issue or the face of the BBI, they talk about inclusivity. Inclusivity is inclusivity of the political class, not the economy, not you and I. So we need to be woke, or we need to be serious when you talk about, you need to have a holistic discussion, because the country is suffering. That is why the document is so unpopular, because someone will ask you, let's say, for example, I'm a trader. How does BBI improve my life? They'll tell you economy. Define or give me the basics of that economy. They wouldn't have it.
And the proponents also on the flip side do question the economic model of the DP William Ruto's hustler narrative, which is based on Wilbaronomics, as they say. And it more or less is a painter of a political picture in the country where misguided bureaucratic decisions, I always maintain, have been the part and parcel in the driving of the political process since 1992, when we became multi-party democracy. Yes, Edgar, go ahead, please.
Yes. Now, I do want to talk about the Wilbaronomics first.
Which is important. We have to we have to put them to task.
Yeah. All right. But first, I wanted to say, I wanted to talk about the only way for the opponents of the BBI to pass this BBI is through votes protection. Msambweni taught people that you can protect your vote. Right now, there are only two ways. One, vote protection. And two, you have to be willing to lose your job. You have to be willing to sit before a commission and be willing to lose your job and to lose your life, to lose your personality, and to lose your good name.
To pay the ultimate price.
Yes, you have to. Otherwise, the state is coming with every power it has, and this thing is not being lost. I heard him talking about the reports being not being implemented, the land report, the Ndungu land report and stuff, and you can still ask Kalonzo about the Ndungu land report because it says I read somewhere that the Ndungu land report concludes that you cannot inherit government's land. Well, that is a matter to be
for
discussed.
another day. He has no right of reply nonetheless.
Yes.
There's a viewer, Raymond,
Yes.
Raymond Matata on Twitter, says he's following the discussion and that Kirinyaga County Assembly has already voted to approve the BBI.
Day one.
Done.
Out of 30 days, day one.
Day
so in 89 days' time then, Edgar.
Yes.
I mean, what we are talking about is more or less if we are to look at the makeup and the outlook of the country's political demography and in terms of the regional outlook. For instance, we have Rift Valley region.
Yes,
that
Rift
is
Valley.
the home turf of the Deputy President William Ruto.
And Moi, they usually pair them
Okay.
together.
Older Moi,
but it is just Ruto.
Gideon Moi or Toroi teacher of Moi?
No, Kipsiel.
Okay, Kipsiel, okay.
Yes.
What basically I want to bring out is the
Yes.
is the historic political sort of followership that we have normally in the country. And if that is to play a role, then what we are witnessing now are three major political players: the president, the ODM party leader, and the deputy president, William Ruto. I mean, will it be hard for the proponents to attain the 24 in the event they are to subdivide the country into the counties that support the Building Bridges initiative? And are we likely to witness sort of unpredictability from the members of the county assembly owing to the inroads made by the Deputy President William Ruto, who has always extended an olive branch to these guys?
Now, let's start with Central. And I don't know whether what you've read is factual, whether they have passed.
Just
Is
an
it
opinion.
factual?
Just an opinion.
It's an opinion, right?
Yep, yeah.
Yes. And many of such happenings will happen in Central Kenya because someone is being threatened to do 1, 2, 3. Otherwise, Central Kenya is a no-go zone for Uhuru Kenyatta. No-go zone. And that's why it's calling people to Sagana this weekend.
This Saturday.
This Saturday, right? Yeah. Because he has to talk to his people to toe the line. And if his people don't agree with it, then he's going to produce the file. And the speakers also are going to be given these files. Well, there is nothing clean in politics anyway. And I'm not saying that it is dirty. Everything is dirty in politics. And he's doing his own part. Let's go to Rift Valley. Rift Valley is against anything Raila Odinga. They have even, I don't think even they have read the BBI. But I think anything, Raila Odinga is a no-go zone in Rift Valley, in every part of Rift Valley. And there's a following behind William Ruto. Let's go to Nyanza. Nyanza is a done deal. It's over. And we don't need evidence that they have passed it. That is over. Now, your home turf, or you, the other side. I don't know. The other side. We are not really sure about the outcome of that place. But Uhuru Kenyatta might now play with the places we are not sure about to get his 24 mark. And he might get it. If he plays with the numbers, he might get it. Any other place, we are not aware. And we are not sure whether it's going to pass in any other place.
Okay.
Otherwise, down there, done.
Okay. Now, coming to Akivaga, then in the event, as Edgar now prophesizes, the president and the proponents get the needed 24 county assemblies, then the bill is sent to the National Assembly before a presidential assent and the IEBC conducting a referendum within 90 days. What then will it portend for the DP William Ruto? Will it not be the curtain raiser for 2022 and is likely to affect the political outlook in the next election?
Well, the Deputy President William Ruto right now, he has in his possession the hope of many Kenyans who are disgruntled and who are tired the insensitivity of the current political elites.
And of course made that disgruntlement created by the same government he serves in, isn't it? That's the irony.
Well, maybe I can bring you to the countenance of the current political existence by the excellence of the background that he, after the 2018 handshake, right, it is politically perceived, or even the deputy president can only act once the president has assigned him the duties. Constitutionally, he is the principal assistant of the president.
But can he not advise the president? I mean, in terms of the specificity, these are president. This is a president and a deputy president.
Yes.
Who has a constitutional mandate. I mean, he can advise the president on some of the economic policies he wants done as a government.
But we are not blind to the fact that after the handshake, right, William Ruto was in effect thrown out of the government that he himself created.
But before 2018, we had a 7-year presidency, a 6-year presidency of the two gentlemen, and there were allegations of mega multi-billion corruption scandals. Do you also, in such situation or in such capacity, try to separate the sort of the twin political brothers because of the leveled allegations of corruption against the same government they served?
Well, the point is this, right? Corruption, of course, is in the national mythology of this country, of Kenya. And the fight against corruption is a fight that is supposed to be undertaken by the independent bodies like EACC, etc. Now, the bringing William Ruto and in this conversation, in this context, and trying to pit him to have been complicit in the government, his government that has been overseeing major corruption scandals, right? It's wrong in the essence that the fight against corruption, William Ruto has been calling for independent bodies to investigate any corruption allegation and scandals, right? But after the 2018, he has been pushed out of the government, and we have still experienced other corruption allegations, and we are seeing a militant cover up by the government. What happened to the Kemsa scandal? Right? There is nothing right now that has been done about it. So, what I was saying is this. William Ruto, back to the question that you asked, right? William Ruto has his constituency, right? And they are determined to vote against this BBI. So whether he defects or not, his constituency remains that we shall vote against the BBI.
Okay, is it fair then, before I come to Wakili Nurdin, is it fair then for him to run away from the underperformance of the same government he has served in and now seek a higher office based on an economic model of bottom-up approach when his government has literally mismanaged the country's economy in the 10 years he served, or he will serve as the deputy president?
The point is this. When the Jubilee government came into power in 2017, they had an agenda, right? They had a manifesto that they were supposed to fulfill, which contained the aspirations of Kenyans.
The Big Four agenda, majorly.
Well, Big Four agenda came later, but they had an agenda, right? Creation of 6.5 billion jobs, etc., creating of the Ajira platforms, just creating, having industries in every county. These were the things that the Jubilee government was pursuing in its second term.
So what happened to them?
Then came Raila Amolo Odinga. And right now you cannot say he's in government. Came the handshake. He is in government right now because we have seen various appointments by even his men being brought to the government, right? And so the thing is this. William Ruto was ejected from the government.
No, he is still the deputy president.
Constitutionally, he is the deputy president, right?
Okay.
But functionally and administratively, his roles were taken because the president has the power to delegate the duties. Right now, he's no longer delegating the duties to the president. In fact, he wants to literally kick him out of the government. So that's what is happening.
Okay.
So we cannot blame William Ruto again for being part of the government that is being chased away from.
Okay, so
yet we want to put the baggage on the failures of the government on him.
Okay, then can we blame the government?
We have to blame the handshake and the government that Uhuru Kenyatta is leading, because the handshake came to destroy the aspirations that William Ruto and the government had for Kenya in these 5 years that started in 2017.
Okay, one more take. How does then perhaps an individual, you talked about the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Yes.
How does he change the priorities of a government? How insensitive is the president to listen to him that the president agrees to shelve some of the pledges that he had for the country. I mean, that's just so untrue, isn't it?
Well, we are also...
Unless the president was willing to do so deliberately so that the opposition leader is blamed by the other quarter of the political divide.
Whatever his intentions, what I know right now is that he miscalculated largely on the path to ensure that he preserves his legacy by leaving his cherished manifesto and going to follow the aspirations of Raila Amolo Odinga and his BBI nonsense.
Okay, I take your point. I tried to pin you on some aspects, but the answers are not coming out clear. Nonetheless, we move forward. Nurdin, coming to you, there is the... All right, 2 minutes? Okay, thank you. And there is the response by the Attorney General, Paul Kiara Kariuki, to the applications by the Makueni County Governor, Professor Kivutha Kibwana, together with the Kericho, the county assemblies of Kericho and Nandi. Now, what they want is perhaps whether they can have the capacity to alter and make some changes, amend the content of the report. In the event the Supreme Court, I don't want us to get into the details because it's a matter before a court of law, but do you think an outcome or a ruling, a determination by the court is likely to change the entire tune of this entire drive by the proponents of the BBI or the anti-BBI drive?
I don't think so, because you see, the president usually says, I am on a certain path and nothing or no one will take me out of that path. So they have already started the journey and nothing, like they said, Raila said, times for amendments are done. You are late, the train has left the station. So they will not allow anything. Like my brother here said, there are files. The same judiciary, they have files. Whoever handles a file, you also have a file on your neck. So the independence of the judiciary is in problems. That is why you see Maraga was always complaining. Because you see, we talk about independence of institutions, but it is never there. We talk about separation of powers in the Constitution, but implementing is hard. That is why they talk of revisiting, because the executive will want to have a hand in everything that happens in this nation. Now, let me just go back to what my brother here said. You know, we talked about the government. Let us be honest, and let us be objective. First and foremost, the Jubilee government has failed the citizens. What they promised in 2013, largely what they were talking about, has never been delivered.
Okay.
Has never been delivered. So when we talk about failures of this government, we have to include Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto together. You see, we are talking about how the handshake came and then William Ruto was edged outside. According to the Constitution, he's deputy president. And if at all you feel like nothing that you want or no advice you're giving to the president is taken, in the developed ones, what happens, like in Italy, the prime minister is resigning simply because he mismanaged the pandemic. Now in Kenya, we are saying we have a deputy president who cannot resign because of, you know, it's because of interest, because he knows, he's seen the history. Jaramogi dared to resign. What happened to him? So he knows, if I resign, a day in politics is a long time. What about 18 months? A lot can happen between now and 18 months. You can be in and out of court.
So he has a political security.
That is it.
Where he is.
That is it. Because at the end of the day, the law knows him as the principal assistant. You know, Raila, nobody can question Raila. Okay. Raila is opposition leader.
All right. But I'm just wondering how then an opposition leader is diverting the attention of the government. I mean, what power does he lie, or what leverage does he have is the question that I had sought, and the answers were never coming through. But Edgar and the other two guests will be coming back after the break on the broadcast, and as we continue, and we'll be getting a soundbite of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who yesterday met a group of student leaders across the universities in the country here in the county of Nairobi. And he talked about Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte, who has resigned. And just a week ago, the Dutch government resigned, the entire government, because of how they have managed. Just small issue, which was very important. I mean, democracy is the importance of having an administration that is clear, accountable, and serves the interests of the common man, and that's what we seem to be lacking 30 years after multi-party democracy in 1992. After the break, we continue with the discussion, including the cartoon editions on the Daily Nation and the People Daily. Stay tuned. And good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching New Day Kenya, still with Edgar Koskei, social political commentator, Akivaga Jayuga, who is political commentator, Nurdin Kagai, lawyer and political analyst. Equally here on the broadcast. And Edgar, you had a point before we went on break. Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, I had a point. We were talking about the referendum and how there are not going to be changes. That the train has left. And we said that there is no more editing of the referendum. There are no more questions coming because Baba has said that there are no more questions. Now, where are we going to leave the people following the deputy president? Where are these people going to be? Because if you cannot change the format of the referendum question, then it means you're going to lock out a huge, some population outside this. So they will be forced to oppose. Why? Because of the content? No. Because of the format.
The format in this case locking out the Deputy President William Ruto,
yes,
as Akivaga points out.
Yes, yes, because of the format, because he has to oppose it. He has to oppose this. And they've been looking for a way. Now, William Ruto, if he is not going to be seen as the main opposition, then he's just going to say, it's okay. It's okay. Let us just go to the referendum just like that, and let us vote for it just like that.
Okay, so are we likely to witness the Deputy President William Ruto leading the No campaign?
He's not going to do that because the government wants him to do. Because Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga want him to do that.
Okay.
And ODM.
Yes, and ODM, those people, they want him to do that. But it's smart enough not to cause an opposition like that in the country. But he'll smartly advocate for some issues to be corrected. And he will tell Kenyans smartly that now that they have not been corrected, make your choice.
But some of the issues that he had raised very eloquently during the BBI launch, Bomas Edition 2, have been largely made. And then at his current residence, when he was accompanied by a catalogue of members of parliament, senators and governors,
they shifted the goalposts.
They issued a statement saying that we now want multiple choice referendum. I mean, it's demand after demand, isn't it? And it's very clear that the Deputy President himself, despite not wanting to come out clear, and he has decidedly remained vague on the matter in wanting to lead the No campaign, still is playing political game, isn't it, with regards to wanting certain favorable outcome from this process?
Let's say he had not given out those proposals in Bomas, would be having a faulty ombudsman office.
Those addressed?
Yes, no. Let's say he didn't address it.
Okay.
Let's say he did not come forward against that tide. It was a big tide in Bomas because everyone supported the BBI, the passing of even Mudavadi came out to say, I support this thing. So William Ruto was the only voice of change. And he talked about a few changes that were done, and they were reasonable changes. Reasonable changes. Is a multiple choice question reasonable? Yes, it is. Because you are going to focus on what's important and what's not important. If you're given a question of the Prime Minister, let's say the Prime Minister,
okay,
then you will have to say no or yes to this question. When you're given another question, you'll have to say no or yes. So William Ruto wanted a wider view of the BBI from the people of the country.
All right.
So that you can be able to attack one question after another. It is not just an opposition outside there just to oppose.
All right, and that was never done. Nonetheless, the Orange Democratic Movement Party leader, who is apparently at the moment in Githurai, in the county of Kiambu, and in the popularization of the BBI draft, said yesterday when he met a group of university students that we now have 6 ballots. A 7th one for a referendum with many questions will be cumbersome for Kenyans, especially the illiterate voters.
Ones.
And that is what he yesterday echoed. Akivanga, coming to you. The president is this Saturday set to meet leaders from the mountainous region, and the house of Mumbi appears to be experiencing some political turbulence. The mountain is rumbling, and if things are not put under control, then we are likely to witness a volcano that is likely to affect the political pattern of the mountainous region. In 2016 February, the president met the leaders in Sagana, Nyeri County. 2019 November, Sagana, Nyeri County. And 2021 in January, he's going to be meeting the leaders at the same venue. Do you think he's likely to make some political gain owing to the nearing BBI draft, which is now at the county assembly level?
Uhuru Kenyatta himself has the answer to that question, because yesterday he singled out and he warned the people that do not ignore me thinking I am going.
I still
have got some powers.
We still have a few
He knows
months.
Some time to roar.
He knows he's going, right? He knows he's going. And the people in central Kenya, they are fighting for their own political survival, even the leaders. So they have to listen more to what is on the ground. You see, the setup of the central Kenya, right now, why they cannot listen to Uhuru Kenyatta is because they know he's going to be out of power in 2 years' time, right? So he doesn't have like their future interests at heart right now. He only has left 1 year, 1 year and 6 months to go. So he might try to do some damage control, but I think it's a little too late. There is no, well, the leaders will turn up, they will listen, as they have always turned up to listen to him. But after that, I doubt if he'll made any important, or rather any significant change of the mindset in central Kenya. So yeah, he can do that, but to me it's pure kabuki theater. It will be all play, but there won't be any substance in as far as changing the narrative of central Kenya is concerned.
Okay, Nurdin, before we come to the cartoon editions, because I need to tie this discussion to the economic angle, because we seem to be running empty as a country, as per the revelations made by CS Ukuri-Yatani. Nurdin, in this Saturday meeting, the president is going to be convening and presiding over. I just want you to give me the communication approach. Is it going to be bottom, top, or top-bottom? Who will address who in that gathering? The leaders addressing the president in terms of raising the issues that are pertinent, or the president, as they said, Kabando last night said, lecturing the leaders whose opinions might not be heard?
The past two meetings, it's been top-bottom. It's been more or less like a dress down.
Yeah.
And they are hoping for the best come Saturday. Now the challenge is, how does he wake up that day? How does he wake up feeling? Does he wake up feeling like you are my subjects? You know, he usually says, I made you members of parliament. I am the reason you are where you are, you know. So what I foresee, he wants the BBI to pass in his backyard. That's number one. The challenge that he's facing is that no proper civil education was done about the BBI. People were signing without even reading the document. You sign, then you're given a document. It's more or less like saying you're in a classroom, you do your exams, then the teacher gives you notes as you're going out. It doesn't make sense. It's ludicrous. So as he talks to them on Saturday, he's going to use all the mechanisms, all the ways he knows to make sure that they are panel beaten to a certain position, so that none of them, you know, in Kenya, the problem is our politics is of kingship. So you align yourself to the political kingpin. That is why you always hear, respect the president, respect the former prime minister. Respect is more or less like bow down. It's like, it's a demigod. So if you don't toe that line, there'll be hell to pay. So come Saturday, this is more or less, you know, BBI is more or less a precursor for 2022. Like he said, he's going to be there and he knows what will happen. So as a precursor, BBI will bring about two things: political formations and new BBI billionaires. That's certain. So why the deputy president is being shadow boxed into a contest is that in politics nothing is done by a coincidence. If a document was brought and everyone would agree, it would be boring. So they are looking for a way to make sure that he opposes. But if he doesn't oppose, then it would look weird, because one, history may judge him harshly. Because one, you sat at the periphery and looked. And then two, what happens to those you call your hustlers who are disgruntled with that document, that would want you to leave that no campaign? What happens to them? And then three, if he goes out and opposes it, then clearly it would be an out war against his boss.
Okay,
and that would be dangerous for him 18 months to the election. So
you say it can be catastrophic and might be consequential, but is he assured of support by the president even now without saying no?
Now you see, the problem is in Kenya.
Or he is still hopeful?
The problem in Kenya, the president just said he's there and he has a say. And that, you know, in Africa, that's a very dangerous statement. I have a say, meaning I might sway the way things go. You know, in Africa, it's different. The incumbent or the outgoing, most of the time, have a say. Like, let's say, for example, in Congo, most people thought Kabila was going out. Little they know, the president was his stooge. That is why they agreed on certain things, but now at loggerheads.
Okay, President Felix Tshisekedi is what you're talking about. Yeah. But that was largely a political pact which was midwifed by the Catholic Church, which is very influential in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, when Kabila had rejected to leave power at the expiry of his term. And still there's a standoff as regards the coalition, because the president now says that it's because of the majority members of the National Assembly made up by Kabila's party who are sabotaging his pledges or the policies he has for the country. But Edgar, Nurdin does point out what presumably will be the president will be addressing. More or less, it's the president talking to, not with, because with you establish two communication channels. Two means it's more or less like an order or condition. But as Sagana comes, Sagana 3, February 2016, November 2019, and January 2021. As Sagana comes, what has been the bottom line for Central Kenya region has been economic rebellion. They rebelled because of the economies, because of how their businesses have performed. And that's why there was more or less a period of semblance during the Kibaki government between 2002 and 2013. And do you think this will shape the next outlook of the government? And will we again witness sort of a lacking reverse psychology that the president wants from the region?
When you want to turn my mind, then you will look for me privately, then we iron out issues. The issues in Central Kenya cannot be addressed through the microphone. They cannot. Sagana 1, they chose BBI proponents to be the MCs and to be the organizers.
Sagana 1 in 2016,
yes.
Sagana 2, you mean Sagana 2?
Sagana 2.
Mutahi Kagwe was the master of ceremony.
Yes. Now we expect, do you expect the same thing to happen in Sagana 3, where the BBI proponents are going to run the program? We expect that, because the president cannot have it any other way. Now, you talked about the economic rebellion in Central Kenya. Actually, it is not about economic rebellion. They're asking the president where William Ruto is. Fine, you have brought us BBI. Where is William Ruto? Economic issues or not, where is William Ruto? And someone from Central Kenya has been grown to think that Raila cannot be president. There's a fact on the ground. And if you go ask them, they will tell you the same. Now you're bringing us Raila. Someone asked, how powerful is Raila that he is running the government right now?
Is he?
And a friend amongst us answered that he has the power of chaos. You remember the Tear Gas Monday?
Machozi Monday is Tear Gas Tuesday.
Yeah, Tear Gas Monday, Tear Gas Tuesday. Economic sabotage. Resist
movement.
Yeah.
NRM.
You resist every product from the Kenyatta family. Now, if it were you, wouldn't you salvage your family in the name of BBI? Just save the situation. Bring the BBI. Let Kenyans talk about this. And send Raila. Sell him to the Central Kenya. So that is the quagmire that is in the country. You talked about the support of the, whether the DP will need the president's support. Or whether they have an agreement behind curtains, and then the DP doesn't need the support of the president. And the opposition that has been going on in the country is pushing the DP forward. But do not think that the president is not seeing that. You think he is stupid enough not to see that whatever he's doing is pushing the DP forward? He is not. There might be an agreement behind the curtains to work together through anti-BBI process.
Okay, so the Jubilee agreement is likely to stand. We're likely to see the 10-10 arrangement.
He might not say it.
Okay.
He might say, I leave it to you people of Kenya to choose, while he knows that the data with the NIS is that Ruto is ahead.
Okay. Besides the head start, I mean, in the end, we have more or less a dynamic political process, and we have young Kenyans who are connected, educated, youthful, and internet savvy, and who cannot apparently speak their ethnic languages, meaning the political landscape is likely to tilt in 10 years' time, say in 2032. But going by what he said in 2018, the president, I mean, my choice for 2022 will shock you. Karatina in Nyeri County, 2018.
Yes.
And then in Mululu village, he said there's need for other communities to sip from the cup of the presidency.
Yes.
And then he said that yesterday, I still have some time in my pocket.
And I'll still raw.
To raw.
Yes.
I mean, does he have a shock candidate, or are we likely to see the Jubilee Party, I mean, sort of political mathematics likely to stand 10-10?
You talked about our youngsters. I'm no longer in that bracket. Those people who can speak, who can't even speak Luo or any other. Even Kalenjin. So, what tribe are they? Sometimes we ignore the tribeless hustler nation. Sometimes we ignore it because the people who came up with this slogan, they called it sloganeering. The people who came up with this slogan, so that you need to marshal people around an idea. Now, what I don't want is people to joke about the economy of the nation in the name of hustler. When you come up with that slogan, hustler, can you please mean it and help the nation? The people who came with that slogan knew what you have just asked, that there is someone who will not identify himself with the Kalenjin nation in future, and they live in Nairobi, and they are here. Do not rule out a nation seeking economic stability. Do not rule it out. And do not rule out another form of narrative that will come in the future. A tribeless nation in future will be a nation that speaks on other terms of, let's say, not the tribe that we're speaking, but a tribe that is guided by other ideologies. But I do not want a situation where someone takes advantage of such a situation.
All right.
And promises us a future, man.
Okay, thank you. And whilst that is very important going forward, let's also take a look at the cartoon editions of the Daily Nation. Here's what's coming up. Ukuri Yatani appears to be fishing, but the fishing bucket appears to be one that is based on the debt. And the vulture continues to empty the bucket he is using to put up his fish. And this is the state of the economy as it presents the 2021-2022 financial budget that is set to run the country until July 2022. And also on the People Daily, the cartoon edition has Sano captures, I will not rest until I save Wanjiku's cow, says the government. But the car, apparently, it's on board and it wants to drag on corruption in fighting the corrupt cases in the country, and the endemic corruption in the country appears to be a jalopy vehicle and is willless, unable to move. Corruption continues to circle the public funds, and the cow, apparently, as the picture captures, which is the state of the Kenya's public funding or the country's coffers, appears to be without something to eat, and its state is also wanting and perhaps malnutrition as captured. Akivanga, coming to you. I'll start with you on the first cartoon, the economy. And of course, the cost of the pandemic continues to pile out. The G20 countries, the 20 most rich countries in the world, had struck an agreement to restructure debt for some countries like Kenya. Zambia already defaulted on its debt. Kenya is one of the countries that has largely borrowed from the Chinese government. And these are then supplemented by how we are managing ourselves. Corruption, a third of our economy, eating up to a third of our economy, as acknowledged by the former Chief Justice David Kanani Maraga. Do you think we have the cost capacity to stage a referendum at a time when Kenyans need economic liberalization?
The answer is to the affirmative. Of course, we do not. And as I began by stating when the show began, I say that the nation should get its priorities right? We cannot be a nation that we are seeing families losing their kids in hospitals and in clinics. And instead of catering to their plight, we tell them that the solution to your plight is if you pass the BBI. I mean, it's tone deaf and sensitive, as I said, when I began. So the truth of the matter is this. We have no capacity, right? We have no capacity, at least morally speaking, because morality in the political dispensation of this country hardly comes. So that's why people we used to force the collection of signatures even in burials. So, you know, it's an issue. But right now, we have to put our priorities in the right places. We have to, right now, the reports show that over 1.7 million Kenyans have lost their jobs, right? This is a ticking time bomb. It's a ticking time bomb. Then people are asking, why is the Hassa narrative so popular? It's because of these people that you're ignoring. They're losing jobs. They're coming to you for jobs. You're telling them, sign BBI and then go home. I mean, which country are we constructing? So the thing is this. We have no capacity. We are a nation in debt. And this government, led by Uhuru Kenyatta, has the only thing it has been successful in doing is borrowing. I give them 100% and won. But any other thing, it's failed. And I'm very happy. It's only 1 year, then it goes.
Okay, and Nudin, as per the cartoon by Stano, that is in response to the Daily Nation cartoon, as we finish up, before we go to Edgar, the Stano also puts up a case of a government that apparently is struggling to contain corruption. Of course, questionable tactics by agencies since 1987, when we first formed the Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority. Then 10 years later, it became active. Harun Mwau was made the head of the agency before the court had stopped the process, and then he was subsequently kicked out by the Moi government. Then you had the Kibaki government, came Anglo-Listen, we had Goldenberg, we have Aurora Kemore Dams scandal, and the continuity in the cases of corruption that continue to pile up. Are we failing to address this endemic corruption that is deeply rooted and systemic?
You know, politics is the second most oldest profession after the first in the world. And they resemble each other. And one thing they have in common is deceit. So what our government is trying to tell us is that it's fighting corruption. You see, like the BBI talks about how corruption cases will end in 2 years. You know, you can't fight corruption when the judiciary is underfunded. You can't fight corruption when judges are not employed. You can't fight corruption without independence of the judiciary. You see, if, for example, we would make our institutions strong, that's the only way we're going to fight corruption. If ESCC was independent, if it is not a tool or a weapon to fight against those who have divergent opinions, then we would win the war on corruption. Because, you see, the war on corruption should be fair to all and sundry. Even the bosom buddy of the president or the one who opposes him, if any of them has a corruption case, they should face the law head on. So that we can actually be able to solve the issue that is corruption. Because years after independence, the one thing that Kenyans know, if we would correct corruption, Kenya would go far. The economy can't improve without fighting corruption. Because you might improve the economy, but the same money you're pumping in, someone is taking it under the table. It's like putting 5 shillings in this pocket, and it has a hole. It will go out. So you're doing nothing. So what we need to have is a holistic discussion on corruption. And corruption cases should end, and the war on corruption should not be weaponized. The only way to do that is to strengthen institutions, fund them better, and bring about independence of the institutions so that they can be able to take people to court, and we can be able to have convictions. And then the asset recovery should now come out and repossess all stolen wealth, because it shouldn't end at conviction. Any stolen or ill-gotten wealth must be repossessed.
Okay, Edgar. Double answer to the double cartoons, the People Daily and the Daily Nation, please.
Well, let me start with the economy. Right now we're at 8 trillion, right? From 1 trillion, Kibaki's government. We've been borrowing 1 trillion shillings per year. And the president is saying that we've been losing 2 billion shillings a day. That should be around 83 million shillings an hour. Umepata yako?
I'm waiting.
Yes, so the other time we were struggling with the 10 billion kazi vijana.
Kazi kwa vijana.
Kazi mtaani. We didn't even seem to have that 10 billion shillings. And yet 2 billion is being lost. Now, this one needs to be fixed. You talked about the judiciary independence, and I think we can address it. When we have the independence of those arms of government, then we can address this thing of stealing. Now, I am so glad that once someone has thought that if you deny the judiciary cash, then you can manipulate them. But if you can allocate the judiciary funds automatically without being discussed by Parliament or executive, then you can salvage this country. The last.
Okay, briefly.
Yes, the last one. Is that I do not think that we're in the right direction in fighting corruption. Government fighting corruption, and it will not happen, Ayub. That's why I said that when you want people to resign, please don't talk about Kenya. Please, Kenyans, we can't resign. We are not going anywhere. The whole government resigning. Who?
That is the Dutch government.
No.
And we end it on that note. Thank you so much, Edgar Koskei, a political commentator. Your time is appreciated. At the center is Akivaga Jayuga, who is political commentator, joins us for the first time, and Wakili Nurdin Kagai is on my immediate right. And your time is appreciated, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you to you too. Up next is the Lunchtime News. My colleague Aziza will be with you in a couple of minutes' time for the Lunchtime News. Bye for now. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Primetime News.